this will likely be the end of my favorite member of the Seven Deadly Sins. And as I mentioned in the last review, I've been very happy with this last strung of chapters. I think ever since Gelda came back, I've just been very pleased at what's been going on. A couple of chapters before that were, a little ups and downs. Obviously, I really liked Escanor's chapter when he didn't have his power and yet he was still trying to fulfill his duty as a knight. I think that just very much fulfilled my view of Escanor being my favorite sin, because a lot of people would probably look at Escanor just from the fact he's extremely badass. He's got a really cool design, he's got a really cool power, he's got a really cool weapon, and he's just got a lot of scenes that just make him look like a badass. But, if you just look at the whole badass aspect of him, then you're just going for the flair of the action. But whereas, the substance of the character themselves, we saw that as very, very, very heavily pounded in Escanor's chapter, where even though he knew he would die, he stood no chance even against that little baby Endura, and yet he still wanted to do what he could because he was, as, a magic knight, well, no, holy knight, magic knight, Black Clover, a holy knight, that he needed to do this job, he needed to protect others, and that was just very nice of him. I mean, like the part where he said that if the other members of the Seven Deadly Sins could see him in this pathetic state, just getting thrashed so badly, they'd probably laugh at him. And he's like, no, I don't think anyone would laugh. Just thought about his bonds and his good relationship with his friends. They aren't just members of his team; they are also his friends. He does care about them. So, that was just really nice in general. And then we got this chapter, because we know he was already dying from the sunshine, because he was a human. He was just immortal. His body couldn't withstand that level of power over a long period of time. And here it looks like he's setting up for that end of his own time. And at this end of chapter 326, it had entered noon. So here we have the one, the strongest version of Escanor. And so far, the other times, thinking about it, I never really liked the one version because, just the way he's hunched over. But to be perfectly honest, this panel where he's standing up to the Demon King, I think it just looks way better. It's kind of like, if you go back and look to when Escanor first used Sunshine, it was against the vampire dude. It just looked very weird. I think it was just the fact that his body got bigger, but portions of him didn't end up kind of leveling out. He just looked very strange, and that was one of the things that I wasn't a huge fan of with the one. But it looks much better here because he's evened out. He's not hunched over looking at the demon. He's actually slightly taller, and just complete total deadlock stare as they meet up. And there was one part I kind of chuckled because the Demon King takes out his sword. Again, I'm still not very sure why. He's got a katana. He had a great sword, and Zeldaris had an executioner's blade, and somehow those combined made a katana. I don't really know. I still think that's very strange. I mean, he's pulling it out, and there's a panel of it being unsheathed, that's going to be an important thing. But Escanor, in his kind of base Sunshine form, already blocked it with bare skin. So it's what do you think that sword is going to do, Brett? But now everyone's just kind of getting up and getting ready. They're like, Escanor, let us help you. And he doesn't want anyone to help him. And I can understand why, both from, he doesn't want them to get in the way because, there's a time limit on the one. He's only got 1 minute. And at the same time, this is going to be his moment. So everyone get out of the way. Let Escanor have his time. And this 6 sides up the page where meeting eye to eye. And he's slightly bigger. He's a little bit bigger than the Demon King. And, then they're just throwing blows, throwing punches, knocking each other around. And it looks like, they're of equal strength while he's in this state. He's able to match Demon King, but only for the 1 minute. This makes me kind of wonder why, if the 1 minute version of Escanor is able to, stand off with the Demon King, what is the one version of Male gonna do? Why doesn't the Supreme Goddess just take Sunshine and then, get her own version of the one? And I imagine that you should be able to completely dwarf the Demon at that point. I don't know. But then they're just kind of, swapping blows. The intensity of their just straight brawl is going down. I did laugh at the panel, just at the Demon King, because I thought it was one of those panels where you think it's got to be a big display. And the weird thing about Seven Deadly Sins is it'll randomly have a string of really big, impressive feats and displays. Just for instance, like the whole fight with the whole initial part with Gallon. Gallon was very impressive. Just big attacks all over the place. Escanor showed up. Obviously doing his thing. The fight where Meliodas was against the other Ten Commandments, and you had like Gloxnia just shoot like a laser from his spear, and you just saw like dwarf like mountains and lots of crazy stuff. But then it's like, this is the Demon King. He's the strongest guy. We just saw Mother Creation from Diane be pretty impressive. Just create that large platform, tear out all this land around him, and the Demon King is like, this is the power of the Demon King himself, and it's just like, he punched him. There should have been like some really cool like large scale destruction scene behind him, like the shockwave goes out and just like obliterates some mountains or like clears out some of the clouds, and then like maybe like clears out the clouds, and then the sunshine comes down, and then it like hits Escanor, and it just gives him some like really cool looking moment. I thought it was very silly that like you had like a big like impressive like statement. You're like, aha, you're about to see why I'm the strongest, and then it was big punch and nothing over. And yet, you got a lot of attacks in Seven Deadly Sins. Like, there's a lot of impressive displays of power, but like, I don't know, it's kind of like slowed way down in the Holy War. Like, it was all over the place in the second arc with the Ten Commandments showed up. They were doing crazy stuff all over. Like, Gallon was just insane, jumping all over the place. What was it? Monspit threw that Firebird like 200 miles, and it was just like scorching everything around him, and like tore through that small mountain. There was a lot of cool stuff, but I don't know. Maybe Nakaba's like saving it for that last moment. You got like a pretty impressive, but not, I guess, for Seven Deadly Sins level, like shockwave after Escanor punches him. You see like a little burst on top of the Mother Creation platform. But as they're fighting, they're still swapping blows. But obviously, Escanor's is slowly losing power because the one has a 1 minute time limit. And from there, what I actually am very curious of, why didn't maybe it won't work on him, but like Merlin, because she can, she stops herself in time so she doesn't age. Why couldn't she stop Escanor in the one state? I wonder, just keep him in the one for the rest of the fight, let him throw blows. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work on specific individuals. It only works on her. Who knows? That whole power wasn't explored too much, so it's kind of, we can't go too deep into like the what ifs of it because we don't know the rules and limitations. They only really seen it used on her, so we can't be, and be like, well, why don't you just, well, she's got that, was it the Chrono Coffin? Couldn't she just lock the dude in here? I don't know. She should have 10 minutes. I mean, this all happened over a state of 1 minute, so, it seems like they wouldn't have the time for Merlin. Whatever. I'm not a fan. I don't want to talk about Merlin, actually. I don't like Merlin, so mentioning her and just thinking of like, oh, what if we gave her free range to do stuff? She would probably pull out some spells that we never knew she had, but it's convenient for this state. And it would ruin Escanor's whole badass, cool, heroic moment. But as they're going, the one is starting to fade out. Here comes the Demon King. He's like, 1 minute's over. The cool fire kind of like aura that the one has fades out. But once the Demon King goes into attack, he like plunges his hand right into Escanor's abs, and it goes like inside of his body. But that's when the fire energy just comes back, and you have this last panel where it's funny. I thought I had the two size up, like Escanor and the Demon King sizing up as the panel I was using for this the whole time, but I was busy talking that I wasn't looking, and then I see that I used this one, and he looks bigger. Like I know that the Demon King is kind of like hunched down from this panel, but there's no way him standing up is going to be as tall. Like he looks like a good foot or two taller now for Escanor, and obviously this is a higher state because now his hair is like flaring up. So I mean, he's not even bleeding like that. He's flexing his abs and holding the Demon King in place. And I'm wondering what attack he's going to use, because it seemed like it was at one point just Divine Sword Escanor, like he himself was a greater weapon. And then we know that there's the finger stab version, the Divine Lance. So I'm wondering if he's going to like unload multiple, or if he's going to do like, I don't know. I just had the title of the little text on the thumbnail is Divine Nova, because it'd be something cool like that. Maybe like Divine Pride Escanor, because this whole thing is he's the Sin of Pride, and then he just kind of like AoE nukes the whole area, and you just see like the other sins maybe knocked to the edge, and it actually would look really cool is if you had like that whole platform, and then there's just instead of turning it into like a some big plateau, it turns into like this big ring because he's just melted the whole like center, and then you just have kind of like the edges on the outside, and then you just had like lava dripping down. You had just all that molten rock just going into the lake and just hardening into like obsidian and stuff. That would be a really cool moment. Just visually, it would be like a really cool send off for Escanor because there's no way he's going to be able to fight at this way. If they manage to make him live somehow, that'll be fine. But there's no way that he himself could go through this whole moment and then be like, well, I'm still in the fight. No, this is a all in or nothing, and he's definitely gonna hurt the Demon King. It would be a shame if he ends up like just hurting the Demon King, and the Demon King is it's more of like an inconvenience. Or the only thing I could see it not heavily damaging him is if it hurts him enough, it pisses him off, and he's like, I'm going all out, this is it. I'm tired of you guys. I want this over. I'm sick of dealing with you, and now I'm going to just end it all. He's done playing. He's going 100% all out, and it's like, I'm going to just drop my big attack. And that would be when Meliodas uses his, because I'm still a little indifferent because Meliodas is a character. I like his story, and I like his kind of relationships with other characters. I'm not a huge fan of like him in fights because like in this case, he hasn't even used assault mode, and he hasn't even used his Demon King power. So it's like he needs to get into his Demon King power to really like make it in this kind of like tension state, because we know he's got 2 power levels beyond where he's at to fight the Demon King, and one is specifically like a Demon King level. So he needs to get in that and fight the Demon King soon for it to really kind of being like, okay, warm-up time is over. Any time of like fun scene where it's like, okay, we're gonna get some stuff, but it's not like near the end yet because the Demon King isn't going all out, Meliodas isn't going all out, and it's those all out moments that really kind of like say like, this is it. These are the hype moments. This is going to be where everything kind of goes down. But we'll have to wait a little bit from that, because the next chapter is going to be I think it's 43, 45 pages or something for Escanor's Gaiden, which was funny because I mentioned that recently because it was brought up earlier in the series, and I know Nakaba had it, and I was like, we're near the end of the series. Why haven't we gotten this backstory for Escanor? Are we ever going to get to find out his tale, like him growing up? We know he had some problems, and the place that he was from got destroyed, probably by his own power by accident, but we never found it out. But it looks like we're finally going to find that out in the next chapter. But I'm wondering if it's going to be a chapter, like a Gaiden chapter, and then a week later we get back to the main story, or it's like a Gaiden and then also a chapter. Right? My guess it would be the Gaiden and then next week, like the week after a chapter. I mean, but who knows? Nakaba might go a little crazy near the end. But other than that, drop a comment below. I've been enjoying these chapters. Escanor is my favorite sin, so it is going to be nice to see like him get the full-on like end off spotlight moment for him. And other than that, I really appreciate it. Like, you guys could comment below, thumbs up the video, from the like button, and subscribe button, and check out my other videos. For that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.